Hello my mams, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video, I am going to answer some questions that were being posted by my previous students who are now an education students in Baisubilar. So this is actually a sort of interview questions. So I told them that I am going to answer these questions through a video, and I am going to post this video on my YouTube channel. These are the questions that were being asked by my students. So let's get started. By the way, just a disclaimer, the questions that were being asked on this interview are questions from my students, and the answers that I will be including on this video are all just my opinion. So there is no right or wrong. This is actually based on my experience, based from my own opinions and ideas. So let's get started. So for question number 1, what is your name? So for the sake of this interview, my name is Criselda Biloy Asombrado. So my YouTube channel's name is Teacher Cressy. I am actually currently working as an English teacher in one of the public schools in Bilar. Number 2 question, how long have you been teaching? So since 2018, I became part of the DepEd family. I have been teaching as an English teacher for 2.2 years. So I started like around 2018. It's been 2 years now. And for question number 3, what subjects are you teaching? So it is not actually specified here if this year or last year, but I will just have to include the first year here in DepEd, at the same time my second year here in DepEd. So during my first year working as a DepEd teacher, I started teaching English already. So I didn't have any problems, because so far I am so blessed because I already taught my major. And for the second year in teaching, I am again teaching English 7, English 8, English 9, and English 10. So far I am really teaching my major. So what's good about teaching my major is that I can have problems, but as compared to some other teachers who are handling different subjects which are very different from what they have finished, maybe there are some problems that they cannot resolve by themselves. They really need to consult others to help them. So mas nakaka-challenge po talaga pag masubukan mong magturo ng ibang major. Pero kung baguhan ka pa lang, magpasalamat ka na lang pag major mo talaga ang iyong ituturo, para hindi ka masyadong mahihirapan. Dahil kung baguhan ka pa lang, tapos patuturuin ka ng ibang major, let's say for example, English, then patuturuin ka ng math, siguro makapagturo ka, pero kung may mga problema, dapat talagang gawan mo ng paraan. But in my case, I have been so blessed because I have been teaching, or I am teaching my major subject. So thank you so much for that. And for question number 4, what classes are you handling this school year? Yeah, so I've already answered on the 3rd question. I am currently teaching English 7, 8, 9, and 10. So before pa po kami nadagdagan ng guro sa eskwelahan namin, kasama na po yung ESP, edukasyon sa pagpapakatao, sa mga subject na i-handle ko. But because of this pandemic, there is no face-to-face classes, so hindi masyadong mabigat. So we just printed out the copies that were being sent to us from division office, reproduce them and distribute them, and of course retrieved the papers, checked them, then distribute again. That's the process. So parang hindi masyadong mabigat, hindi masyadong maraming ginagawa, as long as you can manage your time. Parang hindi mo mapifeel yung burden this new normal. And for number 5 question, how do you gather information about students in terms of their knowledge, skills, and values? So, kung ati pong ikukumpara ang new normal sa nakaugilian na po nating normal, like maybe last year, bago pa po nag-pandemic, depende po kasi yung paraan kung paano mo i-gather yung information ng mga estudyante in terms of their knowledge, or it also depends on the subjects that you were being taught. So let's say, for example, if you taught MAPE, so MAPE includes PE, physical education, music, arts, and health. So from the subject itself, MAPE, so usually you're going to gather information through performance tasks, diba? So maybe pasasayawin mo yung bata, mga katutubong saya, mga modern dance, or ipaguhit mo sila, pop art, or ang iba't ibang klase ng art. So ganun po yun. Pag sa akin po kasi English yung itinuturo ko, so kinukuha ko yung informasyon kung gusto kong i-assess yung skills nila sa pagsasalita. So maybe I am going to let them deliver a speech. I am going to assess their vocabulary, pronunciation, the use of punctuation, intonation, and so on and so forth. Depende po yun sa subject. Or let's say, for example, I would like to assess their reading skills. So I need to plan beforehand, ano ba talaga ang goal ko, ano ang target ko pag ito ang gagawin ko sa aking mga bata. So from there, from the objective you have set in your mind beforehand, you have already the goal of what you are going to do. So from there, after the assessment, you can already gather information, and the questions that you had in your mind before will be answered through your assessment. So bilang isang guro, kailangan mo talagang pag-isipan, pagplanuhan ang bagay na dapat mong gawin bago mo isabak ang inyong mga estudyante sa labanan, para pagkatapos madali mo lang makuha ang inyong layunin, makamit ang iyong layunin. Okay. And then, what assessment tools do you use? So usually, since we will be talking the new normal assessment tool. So because of pandemic, we really need to make use of assessment tools that are appropriate to the current situation. Okay, so let's say, for example, for my major, since my major is English, so the assessment is being divided into 2 parts only. So we have here the written works, which is 60%, and the performance task, which is 40%. Just that is only an example. So kung nagbibigay ka ng 7 activities, so week 1, week 2, 3, so all in all 7 activities. Ang scores na makukuha nila, inilagay ko siya sa written works. While on performance tasks, when we say performance tasks, these are actually the activities that the students do, in which they really need to make use of their skills, they really need to perform, they need to create, they need to innovate. They are going to integrate their knowledge skills in doing this as part of the performance task. So ano nga ba ang halimbawa ng performance task? So performance tasks usually consist of portfolio, compilation of their activities for the entire quarter 1. So iko-compile po nila yun lahat and make them into a portfolio. So Yung portfolio na yun ay isa sa mga halimbawa ng performance task. Sa English ko lang yun. Or pwede ko rin silang ipa-deliver ng speech. Depende po kung ano ang competency na kailangan mong i-achieve for the quarter 1. So, saan ba natin makukuha ang competency? Ang competency, kinukuha po namin mula sa MELC. So, when we say MELC, that is most essential learning competency. So, ito na po yung pagkakaiba. Ito po yung kaibahan sa curriculum guide bago pa nag-pandemic at sa curriculum guide na nandito na po si pandemic, si coronavirus. So, ang most essential skills, ito po yung mga essential skills na kailangan naming i-achieve for a specific quarter. Okay? And dapat yung performance task mo has something to do with the competency that is asked na kailangan mong i-comply. Okay? Dapat nandoon, parang na-relate mo po sa MELC, sa most essential learning competency. Dapat hindi siya lumihis sa ibang competency. Dapat ito lang. Let's say, for example, your competency is you're going to develop the speaking skills. So, dapat yung performance mo, it has something to do with the speech delivery or in which the students can practice or showcase their speaking skills. Yun po yun. Let's say, for example, for mathematics, assessment tools. Ano ba ang assessment tools na pwedeng mong gamitin? You're going to go back to your MELC. So, ano nga ba ang competency na kailangan natin i-achieve for quarter 1? So, let's say, for example, to develop the creativity through making or drawing. So, making. So, pwede silang gumawa ng gitara, creativity, ganun. So, depende po yung sa subject na inyong tinuturuan at ang assessment tool na inyong gagamitin that suit to the needs of your students. So, dapat yung assessment tool, it will really improve or it will really assess the student's strengths and weaknesses. Yun po yun. So, yun po ang assessment tools na iyong gagamitin. Okay? And then, for question number 6, when do you conduct assessments? On our case, tatlo po kasi yung ginagamit kong assessment tool on my major subject, and it is also included, it is also part of the most learning competency. Sa pagsisimula pa lang po ng klase, nagkakandak na po ako ng diagnostic test. So, ano nga ba ang diagnostic test? From the word diagnostic, diagnose, meaning you are going to implement this assessment sa kasisimula pa lang ng klase. So, bakit kailangan siyang i-conduct at the beginning of the school year? The purpose is to gauge students' pre-knowledge. Ano nga ba ang nalalaman ng bata? Like the prior knowledge of the students. Once you would be able to gather the result from the diagnostic, you would be able to have an idea kung ano nga ba ang teaching skill nga kailangan mong i-implement para mabigyang solusyon ang problema ng bata. Okay? Diagnostic, meaning you're going to diagnose the strengths and weaknesses of your students in order for you to implement or make use of an appropriate teaching technique or methodology that would address to the needs of your students. So that is diagnostic. Diagnosed, it should be implemented at the beginning of the school year. Pangalawang klase ng assessment is we have this what we call formative assessment. So what is formative assessment and when to conduct this assessment? So formative assessment should be conducted in the middle of the lesson in order for teachers to track the students' progress. Okay? So, formative assessment can be recorded or cannot be recorded. The only purpose of formative assessment is for you to track, identify if students learned something from the lesson, or if not, you're going to have a remediation. It depends on the teacher, okay? So formative assessment can be done through quizzes, okay? Quizzes or maybe interview questions, depending on the subject. Again, it depends on your objectives, on the subject that you're being taught. If you would like to gather an assessment from learners' vocabulary, then maybe you are going to give a pencil test assessment through spelling, quiz bee, like that. So formative assessment, keyword is middle of the lesson. So it could be either recorded or not recorded, as long as you have gathered the purpose of conducting an assessment. So if your purpose is to track the progress of the students, then go ahead. It depends on your purpose. A formative, middle of the lesson. And the third assessment that I used in my subject is summative assessment. So summative, it is usually conducted before matapos po yung quarter, or it could be done weekly. Depende po. Kasi sa akin po kasi, from Monday to Thursday, kailangan nilang sagutan ang 4 na activities. So by Friday, I usually have my summative test. That is a summary of the lessons that they answered within this week. So, bakit nga ba natin kailangan i-conduct ang summative assessment? So, we need to conduct summative assessment to measure the success. So, to measure the success of your students. How do techniques affect the learning of the students? Was it successful? Do the activities I have implemented on this activity successful? If it is not, then that is right time for you to innovate your techniques, your strategies, because you always have to make sure you will always have to go back to the objective of your lesson. Okay, so during your summative test, if your summative test result, so out of 30, most of your students got 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. So it could be that the students, your techniques, the activities are not that clear, or hindi nila na-achieve yung target. The objectives that are being set are not that clear for them. Okay, so we have to remember summative usually conducted at the end or before po matapos yung quarter or weekly. Kailangan po yan para po ma-assess mo yung teaching skills mo at para rin po makaisip ka po ng iba pang paraan para ma-address yung needs ng mga students. So we need to remember that if you are going to be a teacher, you have to remember the purpose of your assessment. Para saan ang iyong assessment? Ano ang goal mo? Bakit kailangan mo siyang i-conduct? Ang assessment helps teachers to allow them to see if their teaching styles or strategies are effective. And then, assessment also helps teacher plan and provide targeted instruction in the academic content standards. So by assessing student learning against the standards, teachers can tailor instruction to the needs of the students. The most important result or the outcome of your assessment must always be the learning outcome of the student. It should be the learning. Do your students learn? Do your students get something from you, from the subject that you taught, from the technique that you used, from the strategy that you implement? So it should be the learning of the students. The objectives, the advantage for students' side, the purpose of assessment is for them to identify their strengths and weaknesses. Let's say, for example, mahina pala ako sa grammar, pero okay naman ako sa pagbabasa. Ganun. So, from the information that you gathered from there through your assessment, aside sa fact na nalalaman mo hindi epektibo yung techniques mo, nagbibigay rin ito ng hudyat para sa mga estudyante kung ano ang kanilang strength and weaknesses for a specific lesson. Ganun po yun. 7th question, how do you utilize the information in your profession? So, in my case po kasi, lahat ng resulta sa kanilang assessment, it could be in their written works or performance tasks, ina-assess ko po kung saang parte ba sa lesson ako nagkulang. Let's say, for example, during the delivery of the lesson, or sa delivery of the lesson, walang masyadong explanation. Kung walang masyadong explanation, hindi klaro yung concept notes na ibinigay ko, natural, hindi talaga makasagot ang mga bata. So, I need to go back from my lesson plan. Did I put all the parts of my lesson plan? I need to go back. What about my techniques I use for this lesson? Are they appropriate? Do they match to the objectives that I set? From there, I would be able to utilize the information in order for me to become an effective teacher for them. Okay? So, ang iniisip ko talaga palagi ay yung learning ng mga bata. Okay? So, we need to focus on the learning of the students by using appropriate learning techniques, strategies, and approaches in teaching in the delivery of the instruction. And the last question, number 8, how does assessment help you become a more effective teacher? Sa parts sa guro, magiging epektibo ka lang pag ina-apply mo, pag tinatanggap mo wholeheartedly na may mga bata talaga na slow learners, na kailangan mo talaga silang, bigyan mo pa sila ng karagdagang activities para mauunawaan nila ang lesson mo. Dahil kung hindi mo talaga pagtsatsagaan ng mga kabataan ngayon, lalong-lalo na marami na talagang kompetensya, marami na mga bagay na that will really capture their interest, and by that, they can no longer focus on their lesson. So you really need to strategize your lesson. The best way there is to strategize for you to come up a good learning outputs from your students. Okay? So, I hope that I was able to answer all of your questions. Please remember that those are just my opinions, and the things that I have just said here on my video are actually based on my experience. I don't know if some other teachers are using these techniques, if they have the same mindset as mine, I don't know, but these are just my personal opinions and personal experiences. So thank you very much for watching my videos. I hope that you will keep on watching my videos. Please do not forget to subscribe, and please hit the notification bell below if you want to watch more videos of mine. So thank you so much, everyone. To Geraldine, Student 1, Student 2, Marielle, I hope that I was able to answer your questions. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. See you on my next vlog. Bye!